out than they will admit. Whereas in Europe, say in my country of birth, people are forced to pay taxes to sustain a church where the Queen is the head of the church as well as the head of the state and the armed forces. And the moment she dies, her bat-eared, slobbering, chinless son, who is a fan of Islam and has no taste in women, will become at that moment the head of the Church of England. And I'll have to pay for it, or I would if I lived in England. That's what you get if you found a church on the family values of Henry VIII. This is not secularism. And the point that I make about Islam is not frivolous either. The Europeans have decided to import into the center of their society the same crisis that obtains in the ghetto areas, in the most remote and backward areas of the Muslim world, because that's where their immigrants have come from. And they've imported into the middle of their society the resources and the population of a future jihad, something that wants to take away everything they've got and change all their laws and alter all their customs. And it's on the future of that struggle that everything will depend.
And I think that it's important, and I'm sure, I think virtually everybody here will agree that the only helpful formula in our time for religion, which is helpful both for religion and for the state, is for them to be separate. And to the extent that they become too mixed, is a danger for both, not only for the state but also for religion.
I asked a Christian pastor earlier today this question, and if I may, out of curiosity, I'd like to ask you, if you could picture someone being born in Saudi Arabia now, today, this evening, tomorrow, would you rather that person was an atheist or a Muslim?
It would depend. Really, what I would prefer is I would prefer they would be an enlightened Muslim, because then they might have an opportunity of influencing the people around them, whereas if they were an atheist, they wouldn't.
All right. It's a brave answer. Suicidal, but brave.
All right, we have time for one more question, and I'll ask you both to respond. It's initially for you. It says, you have asked for a single historical example of a religious person who was engaged in an act of great moral goodness or valor that could not have been performed by a non-religious person. And cites the example of Roe Klein, a soldier in the Israeli army during the recent war in Lebanon, who in a split-second decision and with a shout of Shema Yisrael gave his life by deliberately jumping on a grenade to save the lives of his comrades. While non-religious people have in many cases given their lives for a moral cause, how many of them were able to make that choice in a matter of seconds?
Okay, no, it's a good try, but it's, as you can see, hopeless. What if he shouted Allahu Akbar when he was doing that? Would it mean the same to you?
Well, this is to save.
Well, no, I'm saying first. Second, how can you tell that a non-believer wouldn't risk or give their own life to save their comrades? It's an insult to non-believers to say that we couldn't do that without divine permission. I don't say I would do it, but I don't say that anyone who could say Allahu Akbar would be more likely to do it either. And furthermore, I would very strongly distrust the motive, which I think would taint the fineness of the action. So my challenge still stands, in case people haven't heard it before. You have to name a moral action performed or a moral statement made by a believer that could not, I repeat, could not be performed by a non-believer. No one. I've tried it with the Archbishop of Canterbury, I've tried it with the Pope's confessor, I've tried it in print, on television or radio, hundreds of times in many audiences. There is no answer to it.
Sure there is.
And that wasn't one.
That doesn't actually seem to me such a...
last word.
Oh, I have the
By
last
the way,
word? Good, so I'll answer the
what he
question.
was doing in Lebanon in the first place. What's he
can...
doing in Lebanon? He's an Israeli.
The answer to the question is when you say could not, I mean, it's true that religious people don't sprout wings, and they can't do things that non-religious people can't do physiologically, but anything from Handel's Messiah to Donne sonnets to Hopkins poetry to blessing your daughter on a Friday night, which I do, to praying together at the bed of someone who's sick, to creating a Shiva minyan for people who are ill, to having, by the way, a religious experience All those are things that non-religious people can't do that religious people can do. And
The latter is true.
And if the latter is true, then I've answered the question, and I'm happy to finish it with a flourish. I will quote, no, 1 second, here, hold it, the flourish is to come. I will end it by quoting an Islamic thinker, and it seems to me an appropriate comment to make to somebody who wrote the preface to Kingsley Amos's sprightly book on drinking. Al-Ghazali said, "I can describe a religious experience to you, but describing a religious experience is to having one, as reading about alcohol is to getting drunk." So I would say that you can have a religious experience if you're a religious person. It's powerful, it's pervasive, and if it's not too presumptuous, I hope one day you do.
Thank you. I should really leave it at that, shouldn't I? But there's something about me. A religious experience, I'm sorry, is not a moral action or a statement. It just isn't. It doesn't meet the qualification. It just doesn't, does it? To say to have a religious experience is to perform a moral action or to utter a moral statement isn't the case. Second, you're wrong in saying that the religious people are physiologically the same. If you don't believe in miracles, I don't think you are a religious person. If you don't believe in the supernatural, I don't think you're a religious person. If you don't believe in divine intervention, you're not a religious person. Thomas Aquinas believed himself to be capable of levitating and frequently flew around the nave of Notre Dame de Paris. Well attested, it's said by all Catholics. Yeah. It's not the case that it's just a difference of opinion. It's all the difference in the world between whether or not you believe in reason, evolution, human solidarity as the source of such morality we have, or whether you think we are supervised creatures, disposable, dispensable, part of a plan of which we have no knowledge and of which we're not considered worthy to have knowledge.
Well,
that's all the difference in the world.
That's right. Well, not surprisingly, while you've both educated us and entertained us, we haven't quite resolved the issue. I'm tempted to suggest that everybody can go downstairs for the reception and let these two gentlemen continue to fight it out and lock
Till
up.
the last dog dies.
And lock up. But what we're going to do is that you're all invited to the reception downstairs. Both gentlemen's books are for sale, and they both have agreed to stay and sign for you. So we invite you all to continue the discussion downstairs, and I want to thank everyone.
Thanks for coming.
And particularly Rabbi Wolpe and Christopher Hitchens.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.